Welcome everybody to Three Wide in the Middle with me, Thomas Brandon, and I am once again flying solo this week. My man Keith is out. I'll talk more about that in just a few, but we got a ton of stuff to dive into. A lot of racing over the last couple of weeks. We had the Let's Race 2 at Eldora, which was amazing. Eldora always puts on an awesome show, as we had the USAC Sprints and the World of Outlaws there. High Limit Sprint Car Series, Brad Sweet kind of smacking around the young gun, showing everybody what's up, who's boss. So he's taking control of that series over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, World of Outlaws ran at Eldora. They also ran at Lincoln. A couple other shows were rained out. Plus, NASCAR news. Silly season getting started with the drivers is Michael McDowell making a move in 2025. What does this mean for everybody else moving forward, particularly Zane Smith, who is there right now? So we're going to dive into all of that and more on this episode of Three Wide in the Middle. But really quick, I just want to apologize. This seems like it's becoming just a recurring theme where we start, me and Keith get back on the same page, and then we're not, and then we're back on and we're not. And to give you guys an idea, so Keith had a schedule change at work. He was doing a bunch of hours. Keep in mind, this is over the last month and a half, 2 months that I'm talking here about why we've missed so much. Then I had a ton of work, obviously, been super busy. Then a few weeks ago, for those of you who remember, got a call one morning, just literally sitting at the counter, and it was, I want to say, the day we were going to be recording a pod or the day before, but got a call that my father had been killed in an accident. And now, it wasn't a car accident. He was digging out a tree stump, being his usual stubborn self. And unfortunately, when I say a tree stump, I'm talking like a 1,200, 1,500 pound tree stump. This is something that you would find at the bottom of a 100-year-old redwood tree. Like it's something like that. It's massive, massive tree stump. Gave way while he was digging it out. It unfortunately came down, and that was all she wrote for the old man, unfortunately. So got a call. Obviously, we didn't do the pod that week. The following week is what was it? Following week was my son's first communion. We had a bunch of stuff that we were getting ready for that, and I think we actually got the pod in that week. Then the week after that weekend was the communion, and we had something came up. What came up then? I can't remember what came up. Something else came up. Didn't get the pod. So then last week, we're going to do the pod. Yeah, that would bring us last week because it was a couple weeks ago. So last week, we're going to do the pod. That morning, I get a message from Keith. And keep in mind, that was also the day when Keith and I were going to do the pod. We were going to do it on Wednesday morning because I was leaving that night to drive up to Washington for the service for my father. And I get a message from Keith that morning. His grandma passed away. So last week, on the one day that we had to do the pod, Keith's grandma had passed away that night. Obviously, we didn't do the pod. I could have come on and done it myself, but I didn't want to. I just, to be honest, with when Keith told me that, and then I'm going to be driving up for my father's, I just started thinking about all this stuff, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, I went from like up and ready to just had zero desire. If I had done a pod, it would have been horrible. So didn't do it last week, and then this week we have it scheduled. We're planned, ready to go, and I get a message from Keith. I messaged Keith a few minutes right before we start. Hey man, I'm going to be on in about 10 minutes. He messaged me back. He's like, dude, I forgot. It's the celebration of life for my grandma today. I'm heading over right now to set up. So that's been the last, 3 to 4 weeks. It's just been crazy. And I state every time we do a pod, it's like, all right, hopefully we're going to get back on schedule and be and something has come up, and it's been over the last couple weeks, it's been a tragic something. So hopefully we've got that out of our system. But now that we got the house cleaning out the way, I want to dive into today's show. Now, we had a phenomenal race this last week at Kansas, and Kansas is, I would say, probably the best track as of right now. At least it's in the top two for the Next Gen Cup car. I think Charlotte is another very good track because you've got multiple grooves at that track. Fontana was a really good one. We don't go there anymore, unfortunately, but that's a really good track for this car. Any track where we have multiple grooves where the drivers can find clean air, right? Whether it's top, middle, bottom, even doing slide jobs where you've got somebody running the high line, you can dive down low and literally drift all the way up to the top, where you're able to find that clean air, get that run. That to me is where this car shines. If you look at the best races, okay, on the Jeff Gluck, was it a good race poll? Kansas, right now, from this last week, just took the top spot. As of right now, it is at the top spot for, was it a good race poll? It is the highest rated race there has been in this poll. Right now, it sits at 95.8%. It is 0.1% better than 2021 Bristol, where the winner was Kyle Larson, at 95.7. The no votes, right? 4.2%. Obviously, at Bristol, that was 4.3%. Now, here's the kicker, though. This is something that's important. The votes for 2021 Bristol was 23,000. The votes for last week's race at Kansas, 43,000. Basically double. That says something. That really says something to me. More people were not only, I think, more people watching this race, but also more people were invested in this race because it was a good race. It was a really good race. Kansas, the intermediate tracks, I've talked about this a few weeks ago. Keith and I have talked about this numerous times. The 1.5 mile tracks, that's where this car, it shines. It is just an all-star at these tracks. I said it a few weeks ago after we got done with all the short track bull crap, right? And look, I love short track racing. I want them to fix this tire and get this figured out so we can stay at the short tracks. I don't need any more bullshit road courses on the NASCAR schedule. But I said, look, Dover, Kansas, Darlington, Charlotte, this is where we're really going to see some good racing. And so far, it's been good. I thought the Dover race was actually pretty good. Which brings me to my next point, and that is the difference between a good race and an exciting finish. Atlanta this year, right? Everyone was flipping out. Hot Atlanta. It was amazing. It was incredible. I thought Atlanta was a decent race that had an exciting close finish. To me, that race, there was nothing incredibly sexy about that race. Yeah, the racing at Atlanta is getting better, and as that track wears, it'll get better. But to me, that stuff where we're just falling in line and bump drafting it. I mean, dude, how many cautions were there? I'm just not a big fan of it. I'm just not. Now that's me, right? That's just my opinion. Personally, I would love to see them, since Atlanta has 2 dates, I would love to see them run one race at Atlanta with the current package, the low horsepower, high downforce. And then I would love to see them run the second race with the high horsepower, low downforce package. I think that'd be great. If you're going to have a track like Atlanta that has 2 dates, do that, because now it's 2 different races. It's 2 different races. So I like that idea. I think that would be really, really cool if they did that. Otherwise, I don't need to see 2 drafting races at Atlanta. I think that sucks. Daytona and Talladega, I used to love watching those races. They are boring as can be now. They have exciting finishes, but they're not good races. And that's the difference. Kansas was a good race. Kansas was a great race. That's what we want to see as race fans. I want to see passing. I want to see drivers who can take control of their car. I want the driver to be in control. Kansas, yes, there's still aero blocking. You're never going to get rid of that. The cat is out of the bag. Pandora's box was opened long ago, and when we started seeing the coil binding and all that crap running these things sucked down to the ground, it was done. It's over. There's no going back. There's no going back. We have what we have. You're always going to have those issues, but Kansas, a track like that, it is minimized or at least taken down to a point where the drivers can overcome it, because now I don't have to follow this guy. I can not only change lanes, but change lanes enough to where I can get clean air on my car, or clean enough air to where it's handling. And this is what we see. Yes, we still see aero blocking. That's a part of it, but drivers can make runs, get up to the guy, make a move, and it stick. It's not like we see at these other tracks where it's like, all right, quarter panel, all right, door, all right, bumper, all right, clear, kind of clear, not clear, up, he's back up. You know what I mean? Where they inch up, right? The car in second place is obviously faster than first, much faster than first, but he can't get around him. Look at Blaney and Chastain last year in the championship. Blaney was faster than Chastain. He was. And he could not get around him. In fact, Blaney started using up his tires trying to get around him because Chastain was aero blocking him. Right? I mean, and there's nothing against in the rules against that. That's how you race. And like Ross Chastain said it best, air is open. That is open. That is fair game, and it is. But that's the difference. Track like Kansas, Blaney, he's faster. He's getting around him. And that's why these cars are shining right now at the 1.5 miles, and everywhere else they pretty much kind of suck. Now, hopefully, this is a big cross your fingers. Hopefully, North Wilkesboro, with this alternate tire that they're going to run, I'm praying that this thing gives us some good results. I don't care. I honestly don't care about how it performs in the race in terms of, did the driver win with that? I don't care about that. I just want to see the tire fall off. Can you give me a tire that falls off? Is it faster in the beginning and then it falls off and you can't just run the same left side tires for 120 laps? If we can just get that, I think short track racing can be saved, and we can put to bed all this bullshit about, getting rid of Richmond and going to Canada to a road course, or Mexico City or what. I don't have a problem with going to those places. I have a problem with getting rid of Richmond. I have a problem with getting rid of short tracks and replacing them with BS road courses. We don't need any more road courses in NASCAR. NASCAR is not a road course series. It's just not. Stop trying to make it IMSA. It's not IMSA. Let's do what we're good at. Let's do what we're known for. Let's not confuse, right? Back to my original point. Let's not confuse exciting finish with good race. You can have a good race that has an exciting finish. Kansas was that, which is what made it a great race. The racing was good the entire time. And then that last couple laps, it was amazing, which just sent it over the edge. Atlanta, it was okay, in my opinion, the first, 99% of it. And then it was exciting finish at the end. And to me, those are two very different things. So let's not start watering down great racing when we see it. And let's not do to average races what we've done with short tracks, right? Where we were so desperate for short tracks, we started calling everything Dover's now a short track. Okay. We just changed the definition of what a short track is. Let's not do that with great races. We were very fortunate this last week at Kansas. I think we're going to have another good race at Darlington. It'll be different because it's a different type of track, but I do think it'll be a good race. You're going to see drivers once again have control of their destiny, which is what we want to see. And then I do think Charlotte in a couple weeks is going to be another great race. So, hats off to Larson. Awesome win. I feel really bad for Buscher. I actually like Buscher. You know, it was such a bummer. I mean, to literally have the time and scoring loop say 0.000, when you're getting to the fourth decimal point to figure out who the winner is, that's a bummer. And there's been all sorts of controversy and talk this week about it. I don't want to rehash what other people have already talked about. Yeah, can we get someone out there who can paint a line straight? Keep in mind that line's going to change that's painted on there because of the cars going over it, rubber being laid down, paint being pulled up. That does happen. The time and scoring stuff, I get that. Okay. I mean, my biggest pet peeve is the camera shot that they show to the public. I haven't seen the NASCAR camera angle, their personal photo finish lens. I haven't seen that picture, but the one that they were showing the public on the broadcast, I have an issue with that because I can go pull up a dozen YouTubers off the top of my head, right? I mean, like Smarter Every Day, Mark Rober. I mean, there's so many of these guys out there, and these guys are YouTubers that literally do these fast, high frame rate shots. Kentucky ballistics, I can sit there and watch a bullet go frame by frame through a, ballistics dummy, right? And I can see it in high def. Like I can literally see it go through a jar and the glass as it shatters in super, super slow motion, and it's crystal clear. Yet for some reason, NASCAR shows us a picture and it's like, dude, is Larson's bumper blurry, or is that Lightning McQueen and he's sticking his tongue out? Like, what's going on? Right? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I just don't understand it. I don't understand how NASCAR doesn't have better camera technology because it's available. This is not something that's not available. I said this last year about NASCAR's social media game. I said it's a joke. I'm watching highlight clips of NASCAR races, NASCAR broadcasts in 720p at like 30 frames a second. This is action sports. This is auto racing. This should be at full HD, at least 1080p, my God, if not 2K, and we need to be at least 50 frames per second. Like, show the product off. Don't show me what this looked like, when HD TV first came out, in the early 2000s. Like, give me a break. F1, it's 2K, 50 frames per second. Boom, right there. I mean, hell, the World of Outlaws are in full HD. You know what I mean? NASCAR 720p. And I know I'm kind of geeking out and getting getting like behind baseball right now, but that's when you see a photo finish and it's hard to tell because it's blurry. To me, that's unacceptable. Now I know, like I said, NASCAR has another camera angle, but the broadcast, Fox, that whether that's Fox's camera or NASCAR, I don't know. And what NASCAR's don't know, don't care. Step up your game, because that's a joke. That is a joke. When I can go find the dude from Kentucky Ballistics on YouTube, right? His channel is literally him shooting guns. When I can get a better camera from him to watch that finish, that's not okay. That's unacceptable. So that needs to be stepped up. Other than that, it was a great race, and my hat's off to Larson and Buscher, although he finished second. That's a bummer that he didn't get the win, but I'm sure he'll be back, and we'll see him running up front again here very, very soon. All right, you guys. So we're going to dive right into the dirt track recap because we've got a bunch of dirt racing to get into. Now, I'll get back into the NASCAR driver stuff. We'll do our pick 'em and then obviously handicappers corner and stuff like that. But before we dive into that, I want to get into the dirt track recap because dirt racing is where it's been. I mean, that's what I look forward to every week. This is good racing. This is what I will tell you. Watch a NASCAR race and then watch a dirt race. Now, I know it can be unfair because you're like, well, dude, the feature is 30 laps, and a NASCAR race, the feature is the race. It's going to be 250 laps or 500 miles, 400 miles. So I get it, but the excitement level in a dirt race is so much better than a cup race. To me, it's not even a question. It's not even a question. Which is really sad because there was a time that wasn't the case for me. I loved dirt racing, but I loved NASCAR more. Those days are long gone. Long gone. And I know there's a big discussion about the drivers and, the old fans of Earnhardt and Labonte and Schrader and Mark Martin and Jeff Burt, they haven't transitioned to the new driver. That's not it. I'm a fan of the newer drivers. It's not that. A lot of it has to do with the stuff that we've talked about before, them changing the car and doing all this other BS. So, to me, dirt racing, that's where it's at. If you ain't watching the sprint car stuff right now, you are missing out. Late models have been really good too. The midgets, USAC sprints, outlaws, high limit, like it's just, to me right now, I cannot think of a better time to be a dirt fan than now. I really cannot think of a better time to be especially a sprint car fan. I know there was people talking about how the World of Outlaws was going to be kind of watered down with the high limit split and stuff. That has not been the case. To me, it has just been more great racing. That is the way that I have seen it. That is how it appears to me. When you look at the World of Outlaws and you look at high limit, to me, it's like college football. It's like the SEC and the Big Ten. You can debate which one's better. You can debate which one has more depth. But when you look at the top dogs in each of those series, you're like, dude, if we did a head-to-head matchup with the top 3 or the top 4 from each series, damn, you can flip a coin on who's going to win. Like, that's how good these series are right now. The Outlaw series has been incredible. High Limit has been incredible. These last few weeks, if you haven't had the last name Sweet or Day, you ain't been in victory lane, but the racing has still been good. Tyler Courtney's been up there running. Macri was up there. You had Marks, Larson. I mean, it's been some great racing. So excuse me. So before we look at the late model stuff and get into that, let's look at what we had. So a couple weeks ago, we were going to be heading to Knoxville. Knoxville got canceled, rained out, which was a bummer. We had for the Outlaws on May 1st, the Hy-Vee Perks 40 at Jacksonville Speedway. David Gravel got the win. That race, I'm going to be honest, I did not see it. I missed that race, partially because it was like a Wednesday. It's like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Yeah, it was a Wednesday night. So I just missed that race. I did go back and watch the highlights of it. Good race. Gravel's on another level right now, man. He's, just dude's on fire. Then we had Let's Race 2 this last weekend, which was awesome. Let's Race 2 is, if you're a sprint car fan, to me, it's must-see TV because you've got the World of Outlaws with the USAC sprint cars, and the racing is incredible. It's different, but both of them are just incredible. They're so fun to watch. Obviously, the wing sprint cars, they're just sucked down, pinned to the track. Obviously, I mean, it's dirt, so you can still spin your tires and get loose on stuff like that. But the speed that they're carrying through the corners, when those guys can just stick that right rear on the cushion, it's incredible to watch. It really is. Night number 1, Sheldon Haudenschild went out, put it on the cushion, and was just gone. He led flag to flag, looked really strong. Reminded me of the Sheldon of old. Now, Sheldon's always ran well at Eldora. They've just had a couple of races where they just didn't close the deal. He was fast, he was running up front, leading laps, and all of a sudden, he gets passed by, a Kyle Larson or a Tyler Courtney or whoever, right? A Brad Sweet, a few laps to go. So he just hadn't closed the deal. But night number 1, Let's Race 2, he closed the deal. Looked really, really good. Final night, Let's Race 2, Gravel goes out, has an absolute incredible battle with Donnie Schatz. If you did not see, go watch the Saturday night of Let's Race 2. If you want to see what a great, exciting race is, watch the 2 features, the USAC Sprint Car feature and the World of Outlaw Sprint Car feature. Schatz and Gravel battled. It was awesome. In my opinion, Schatz wins that race if that red flag don't come out with 1 or 2 laps to go. Schatz had just cleared him coming out of 4, got the lead, looked like he was going to start driving away because he had a little bit of momentum on his side, and then the red flag comes out, obviously changes things. Restart, Schatz has got to run, gets a decent jump. I shouldn't say Schatz has got to run. Schatz gets a decent jump. Gravel's got to run. Gravel makes his move, gets around him, and ends up getting the win. Incredible race. Incredible race. Then, on the non-wing side, Friday night, Robert Ballou literally puts it on the cushion and just pounds it down for the last 10, 15 laps and went from like 5th or 6th to 1st in 7, 8 laps. I mean, he had a hell of a run. He was like the only one up top. And when I say up top, I mean on the wall. And it paid off for him. 1 lap to go. They get the white flag. He's half a straightaway, behind, and ends up passing for the lead and wins by like 12 thousandths of a second, I believe. I mean, it was 16 thousandths of a second. Or excuse me. Yeah, 16 thousandths of a second. Well, by 16 thousandths of a second, which is, it was incredible, dude. Yeah, if you have not seen it, you need to watch it. Then Saturday night, Justin Grant and Logan Seavey proceed to throw bomb after bomb at each other. Just incredible. Dude, they touched 4 or 5 times. Grant throws a slider, gets into, basically puts it right in front of Seavey. Seavey was either didn't know he was coming or he was not going to give up the spot. Grant ends up getting his bumper. It's just good, hard racing. That's what it was. And they proceeded to just go back and forth, and Grant ended up getting the win. Now, I do think Grant probably wins Friday night had he not broke. They broke a right rear shock when he was out front, and that cost him at least a chance at winning. Blue was so good there at the end of that race, though, on Friday night. It would have been tough to it would have been tough to hold him off because he was incredible. So yeah, awesome racing at Eldora. High limit side of things. So we had 81 Speedway got rained out. We talked about Riverside, which was Corey Day got the win there. Tanner Thorson second, Courtney third, Sweet fourth, Macedo fifth. Then we had the back-to-back at, Lakeside. And Brad Sweet basically said, pay attention, it's time to go to school. And just worked them. Sweet won both nights, ended up getting, I want to say, 10 grand Friday night, 50 grand Saturday night. I think he got another 10 grand bonus for winning both night. Phenomenal weekend for Brad Sweet, and Brad Sweet is now leading the points over Tyler Courtney. Now it's only an 8-point margin, but he's got the points lead and he is looking good. Those guys are really starting to hit their stride. It was a run, and this is what makes Brad Sweet so tough. Sweet started off the season and it was kind of struggling for him. And he was still second in points, third in points. Now he's leading points. The guy is so freaking consistent. It's crazy how consistent he is. It's nuts. So he's just really starting to pick it up. Really starting to pick it up. Now, they've got this weekend. So tonight, High Limit will be at 34 Raceway. Tomorrow night, they will be at Tri-City. Then on Tuesday, they got another midweek money race. They'll be at, oh no, not Tuesday, excuse me, Monday. On Monday, they will be at Kokomo. Then at Thursday, they've got some busy racing coming up. Thursday, they're at Outlaw Speedway, which I don't even know. Where the hell is Outlaw Speedway at? Friday, they're in Utica. And then they don't have any racing that weekend until then the next weekend they go to Port Royal. So, yeah, Outlaw Speedway. I don't even know where Outlaw Speedway is at. Oh, Outlaw Speedway is in New York. Okay. So, yeah. A lot of racing coming up for the high limit sprint car drivers. Outlaw Sprint Cars, they've got this week. So tonight and tomorrow night, they will be at Williams Grove, the Morgan Cup. They kicked off, what was that? Oh, was that not last night? The night before, they had the race at Lincoln Speedway. Gravel won that. Showed the posse who was boss. He basically led flag to flag. Now, the Outlaws swept the podium. Macri was the highest finishing posse driver. And then you had Schatz in fifth, then Sheldon sixth, the Nerd Assassin, Buddy Kofoid in seventh, Troy Wagman Jr. in eighth, Danny Dietrich ninth, and Chase Dietz in 10th. So they've got the whole, Posse v Outlaws thing going on right now. Morgan Cup kicks off tonight. I'm going to tell you right now, who's going to win? Williams Grove, it's such a tricky track, man. It's so technical. Oh, man, I don't know who to pick. Who's DeWeese driving for right now? I'm going to pick Lance DeWeese on Friday night. Saturday night's going to go to an Outlaw. I got Saturday night, I'm going Schatz. Friday night, I'll go Lance DeWeese. Saturday night, Donnie Schatz. I haven't heard much about DeWeese, though. He's always so good at Williams Grove, though. If the guy's in a sprint car, I don't care whatever, you know what I mean? DeWeese could be in a 360 at Williams Grove. I'd still pick him against most guys in a 410 because he's just so freaking good there. But I don't know. I don't remember who he's driving for this year. You haven't heard a whole lot about Lance DeWeese. At least I haven't, because I don't follow every Pennsylvania driver. Oh, I know all my posse friends now are going to be flipping out on me. So anyways, yeah, Morgan Cup this weekend. Next weekend, we've got the Attica and then Hartford. And then we've got, why do they have the schedule this week? Oh, I was like, they don't have 4 races, but they've just doubled it up here. So then they go to Atomic on the 24th and the 25th. So So a lot of racing in Ohio coming up after this stop in PA. All right, late model side of things, there hasn't been a ton of late model racing. And when I say that, the weather's just been, it's just sucked. I don't know how else to put it. We had the, 3 or 4 races rained out? 3. And with the outlaw late models. So Arrowhead, 81, Mississippi Thunder, all rained out. Night one of Mississippi Thunder, excuse me. Night 2 went to Nick Hoffman. Friday night, Saturday night was Ryan Gustin. I watched the highlights of this. I did not watch the full event. Pretty good racing. I think the late models always put on a pretty good show. I really enjoy late model racing. I know Keith is not the biggest late model fan, and I understand that. You got to have a lot of time to follow all the dirt racing. There's so much dirt racing nowadays. And even if you're not following the major tours, like you look at the Maverick series, they kicked off their season at Terre Haute, and Jacob Gravel and Rico Abreu were there, right? I mean, Jacob Allen, excuse me, Jacob Gravel. Jacob Allen got the win, and Rico finished second, right? Those are big dogs showing up to a regional series, so there's racing everywhere. You out here on the West Coast with the King of the West. I mean, dude, incredible racing out here. And if you try to follow that with there's so much. So that's why you see a lot of people who are like, well, I like sprint cars or I like late models. Because when you start mixing those two, oh my God, you got dirt racing coming out your ears. So, World of Outlaws late models. Shepard, I believe, is still leading points. Let me double check that. Yeah, Brandon Shepard's leading points. If you remember Brandon Shepard, when what was that? 2017 to 2021. I mean, he had a ridiculous stretch where he essentially dominated the World of Outlaws late model series. So yeah, if you look at Shepard's championships, in 2017 he won his first, 18 Marlar won, and then Shepard won 19, 20, 21. 4 out of 5 years. He leads the Outlaws, Outlaw late model drivers in wins. He's got 83 wins all time. Keep in mind, the late model series started in 88. It's not like the sprint cars where they've been around for, sprint car series started before the late model series by a few years. But yeah, he's been, if you look at just dominant drivers, he's been at the top of that list. He really has. Obviously, Bobby Pierce took it to another level last year. But this year, Shepard's back on top as of right now. Bobby Pierce is down in 7th place in points, minus 118. Nick Hoffman does have a legit shot at the championship this year. He really does. Nick Hoffman, very, very good driver. 9 starts this year. He's got 3 wins. Really, really good. That's more than any other driver on the tour. Keep in mind, the only other driver with more than 1 win besides Nick Hoffman is Devin Moran, and he's not an outlaw. He's running Lucas Oil full time. So, yeah, Hoffman's had a really good year. Shepard, although he hasn't had a win, super consistent, has finished every single outlaw race in the top 10, which is incredible. And it looks like they've got that Longhorn dialed in. Remember, he was running that Rocket House car for years, won those championships, left, did his own thing, switched over to Longhorn. Then now he's in the Longhorn, factory car, whatever they call it. And they've got it dialed, and he's looking good. So definitely keep an eye on them as they're Shepard. He just looks back to form. He just looks back to form. Once he gets a couple wins under his belt, which they will come. They will come. Watch out. He's going to be super tough to beat. Lucas Oil late models. The top 3 in points are, I don't want to say locked in because that would be stupid to say. We still have a ton of racing. But you can definitely see where they have separated themselves. Because they have. Ricky Thornton Jr., Jonathan Davenport, Devin Moran have really shown themselves to be the class of the field so far this year in the Lucas Oil Late Model Series. Now, in 4th right now is Mike Marlar, but you've got quite a battle. You've got Marlar, Hudson O'Neal, Dalton Wilson, Jimmy Owens, Garrett Albertson is down there, and Tim McCready in 9th, which McCready has, a lot of people have been like, well, he's not running very good. He hasn't looked very well. It doesn't look good in that Rocket House car. I don't know, man. He seems to be doing better. He does. At the start of the year, his average finish was like 12th. I think if you look now at his average finish, it's like 7th or 8th. Now, keep in mind, he hasn't run as many races in the Rocket car, but he will. So I would not overlook T-Mac. I think they are going to get that thing figured out. Look at what happened when Brandon Sheppard went from a Rocket to a Longhorn. You're talking about a 4-time champion, and all of a sudden, for the first half of last year in that Longhorn, dude, he couldn't find his ass with both hands. McCready went in season from a Longhorn to the Rocket House car. Dude, they are so different. I know people look at the cars and they think, oh, well, this is a different chassis. It changes everything. One of the things that people don't realize about race cars, especially dirt cars, is the biggest spring on the car is the chassis itself. The way the chassis flex, and keep in mind, they flex with all that suspension on those cars. You got late models. Dude, they got shocks everywhere. You got J-bars. You got trailing arms. You got all this shit just everywhere. That chassis flexes like a mother. And when you talk about matching, you're trying to come up with a suspension package that fits that chassis, works for that chassis. It affects everything. Everything is affected. You don't just take hey man, this is what worked on a Rocket here at Eldora. Let's throw it on a Longhorn and vice versa. It don't work like that, man. We saw Meserol struggle with this when they changed engines, when they started the Ford motor program. It changes everything. All your setups, everything. You are starting off from zero. Nothing is the same. Nothing is the same. You have a baseline to work from, and sometimes you get to the track and that baseline's pretty close. And sometimes you get there and you're like, dude, we are so far off in left field. I don't even know where we're junk. So those of you guys who've been like, oh, McCready, he's looked horrible in that guy in that right. Just give it a couple more months. Let's get, into July before we start crucifying him. I think he's gonna be fine. I think he's gonna be fine. Dude, T-Mac can drive. All right. So that is our dirt track roundup. A lot of dirt racing. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. It's gonna be a lot of fun. All right, so this week we've got Darlington coming up. Keith and I need to make our NASCAR Pick'em selections. Now, we obviously haven't made a selection in quite some time, but if we look at our previous selections, which was for, what the hell race was that for? Talladega. Yeah, that's right, because we didn't pick Dover. Talladega. I had Stenhouse Jr. Keith had Gilliland. I got the win for that race. Last week was a big X because we didn't pick. So now this week going into Darlington, Keith is going to be taking William Byron, who he has not picked yet. I am going to be taking Larson does well here, but I don't want to pick him yet. I'm saving him. I'm going to take Christopher Bell. Obviously, basically, if it's right now to pick against JGR or HMS is pretty much just stupid. I mean, don't know what else to say. Those two teams, I mean, they're just dominant right now. Just absolutely dominant. I do think we will see everyone's talking about the Fords are just done. I don't think that's the case. Buescher was obviously there this last week. He looked strong. I do think Blaney has been good. He's been pretty much the flag carrier for the Fords this season. He's kind of dropped off a little bit the last week or two, but he's still defending champion. He's definitely got that run in him. Remember, you don't have to be good the whole season anymore. We've talked about this. That is the way the championship is now. It is the days of winning the year, those are long gone. You need to win a race, make it to the playoffs, and then put together a run. That's what you need to do. We saw Blaney do that last year. We saw Logano do it the year before. The year before that, right? Look at Kyle Larson. I mean, that year, he should have been the champion. He won 10 races. He should have won the championship. Had he not won the championship that year, it would have been a travesty. But you look at last year, Blaney won the championship. I mean, you can make the argument that there was 3 or 4 drivers that had better years than Blaney. Right? They didn't win the championship, but they had better years. This year, to me, where we sit right now, it's Larson and Hamlin. Those are the two. I had said weeks ago, I told you, I thought Bell was going to have a breakout year, was going to have, I can't remember if I said 5 wins or 6 wins. I still think that's possible. I really do. They've had some horrible luck with pit stops and failures, wrecks, but I think Bell's going to be right there. I'm looking for him to have a bounce back week this week. I really am, because that guy can drive, man. He can drive. For all the love Larson gets, and dude, I love Larson. I think Larson's the best there is. Bell is right there with him. The guy can drive. So we'll see if I'm right. All right, now on our handicappers corner, if you look at this week, really, I've talked about this before, but when we look at the odds, right, you're essentially looking at this in terms of the odd makers percentage, right, or what they're saying is a implied odds, right? So once again, Kyle Larson plus 450 to win the race. That's outright winner. That opened at plus 390. So what that means, because this is really important, what that means is that Larson opened at plus 390. That's how big of a favorite he was. He was plus 390 to win the race. Then, as the week has gone on, it's gone up to plus 450. Now, keep in mind, the bookmaker where you are getting these odds matters. If you look at, the hell is this? Action Network. There's, they've got bets from DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM. They got all this stuff from all over the place. So that can have a huge effect on what your payout is. You want to always, if you are gonna bet, remember, make your own decisions. This is not advice. Take your own risks, whatever. You want to always shop for the best odds. But Right now, Larson is the favorite at plus 450, followed closely by Denny Hamlin at plus 475. Then you got a big drop off. Truex at 700, Byron 800, Reddick 900, Bell 1200. To me, that's kind of the cutoff for me, is Christopher Bell. I like Bell. I told you that was just my pick for my pick'em. I like Bell. I do think Bell's going to have a good week. I do think Bell can win this week. I like Bell. Chase Elliott plus 1600. I actually like that quite a bit as well. I like Chris Buescher at plus 2200. Don't overlook that guy. I've talked about this before. I watched a dang it, what's the guy's name? Eric. He has a YouTube channel, and it's really good. If you like NASCAR, you should definitely check it out. Out of the Groove is what it's called. I can't remember his last name though. I want to say his last name is Step. Eric Step. Maybe it's E-Step. Eric E-Step? I think it's Eric E-Step. Anyways, he was doing a power ranking. He was power ranking the drivers. He talked about Alex Bowman. He had Alex Bowman, I don't know, 7th or 8th or something like that. And he talked about how Bowman is consistently up around the top 10. And he is. Bowman is, you can find him from, 5th to 10th, right? He's going to be up there. Here's the thing. To win races, you've got to be running up front. How many times did we see William Byron win races last year where he was just hanging around the top 10, and then all of a sudden it's 40 laps to go and it's, dude, Byron's up front. Where the hell did he come from? Bowman has that capability. 100%. Alex Bowman at plus 4,000, if you're looking for like a long shot, that's not a bad play. The HMS cars are definitely fast. We've seen them run up front all year long, even though Bowman has not won a race yet, where Elliott, Byron, and Larson have. He's been consistently running up front. So definitely look at that. Eric Jones, he's coming back. I know he does really well there. He's up plus 4,000 as well. Noah Gragson plus 5,000. I actually don't hate that in terms of a long shot bet. Gragson has definitely looked really good this year. In terms of HMS, in terms of SHR, God, I get so mixed up with the abbreviations. In terms of SHR, he has no doubt been the banner carrier for that team. There's been a lot of talks about Stewart-Haas potentially selling 1 or 2 of their charters at the end of this year. They are obviously not going to sell any charter until we know what happens with the charters moving forward. Or I should say, no one's going to buy a charter. 2311 is not going to come out and spend $30-40 million on a charter to see the agreement not happen, and then now there's no more charters, right? So I do think we'll get a deal done. I don't know when. We'll talk about that another day. But anyways, so as of right now, Noah Gragson is literally the top dog at SHR. Then you got Briscoe and Barry kind of fighting for that number 2 spot. Priest, kind of the odd man looking in, odd man out. So it's just tough there. It's tough there right now. And with the talks of potentially downsizing the team, I've also heard that there could be a merger of Stewart-Haas in front row. Whether or not that's true, who knows? We still have a lot to have happen this year. With Michael McDowell signing with Spire for 2025, that does open up the question as to what is going to be going on moving forward with Front Row Motorsports. Are they going to fill that role? Could they do a merger with SHR? Right, like it just lends all types of questions. But we'll save that for another day. And I had one more. Oh yeah, and the last super long shot that I would look at, and we're talking, obviously super long shot at Darlington, would be a Josh Berry at plus 10,000. I do think Berry is somebody that could win a race at a Darlington just because Berry is so good. Late model stock guy, very good at knowing how to save tires, manage the race, manage the car. I think this is one of those tracks we could see Berry have a very good finish at, which is why he's one of the few guys I like when we look at the top five. When you start getting into top five, top 10, you really have to get long odds for it to be worth it. Josh Berry plus 1,300. Could Berry score a top five, right? When you look at a plus 1,300 bet, I do think that's possible. I do. He's been consistent. We saw him up front a couple times this year. We know he can drive, right? We know he's got talent. The question is, will he be able to put it together for 400 miles at Darlington, right? That's always going to be a question. So one of the bets that I like for top five, there's not a lot in the top fives. When you get in the top fives, like I said before, you got to get some long odds for it to really be worth it. Same thing with top tens. You can really lose money on bets like this because the odds that you have to lay for what you would consider quote unquote those sure things is insane, right? Joey Logano's minus 105 to score top 10 this week. Logano's been better these last few weeks, but I am not at all confident that he is going to be, without a doubt, in the top 10 this week at Darlington. Not at all. Ty Gibbs is plus 100. He's basically even money. Blaney, even money. Bubba Wallace, plus 115. Bowman, plus 115. To me, those are not worth it, right? If you're looking at top 10s, once again, Berry at plus 330, even that, I'm not a huge, I don't really like it. To me, if you're going to take Berry at plus 330 for the top 10, I would also take I would go the plus 450 or plus 500, whatever it was for the top five. That top 10, man, when you start look, because keep in mind, when we talk about this, we're looking at this over the course of the long haul, not on a single race basis. We're looking at this over the long haul. And when we start making these wagers, right, you've got to make sure that you've got bankroll moving forward, and then also looking at, all right, now where can I make some money? And that's why I'm going to look at taking, and I guess I don't even know if I explained this. So I talked about doing this before. Got sidetracked here. I'm going to be doing, right after our NASCAR Pick'em, I'm going to be making some bets with fake money, okay? Because betting's not legal here in California. Be making some bets with fake money here for Capper's Corner. I'm going to start off with a $10,000 bankroll. The only reason I'm doing $10,000 that is just everything needs to be broken down by units. If I do a $10,000 bankroll, I can break things down into $50 units that'll give me decent betting, and it's a high enough high enough amount to where if I make a $50 wager on a plus 400 bet, right, we can look at that and we can be like, okay, now we've got a decent payout here, right? To where if I'm going, okay, I'm going to wager $5 on plus 500, it's just really small, easy to lose track of it, that type of thing. So $10,000 bankroll. There's no set amount of bets that I need to make, which is always very important. Some people, when they look at betting, especially when they're trying to handicap and really do it, they're not just betting for fun. They're actually trying to make money at it. One of the mistakes that they'll make is they feel they have to make a bet. Even though there's not a good bet that week, they have to make a bet. No, you don't. There are some weeks where you might find nothing, and then there are other weeks you're like, dude, there's 5 or 6, sides here that look really, really good. So for me, what we're going to do here is I'm going to break this down into, we're going to have winner bets. I'm going to do top 3, top 5. because is it top 3, top 5, and top 10? Yes, I will not be making any top 20 wagers because that is just stupid. And then I'll also have matchups where we'll pick one over the other. For the most part, the outright winner picks are probably going to be the ones that in the matchups will probably be the ones that we make the most of. So it's not like I'm going to select 10 people for top 5. That probably won't be that way. But just in case, right? You never know. So this week, what we're going to do here is we are going to go outright winner. Like I said, I'm going to make sure I get the odds on here again. Outright winner. My bet, I'm going to go with Seabell, which is plus 1,200. Remember, I'm wagering $50 a unit, okay? So one unit, so one betting unit is going to be $50. All right, and so if I say I'm wagering 2 units, that would be $100, right? I'm going to wager 1 unit on Christopher Bell for outright winner. And I'm going to also take, God dang, man, I wish I could find, and I'm just using, keep in mind, I'm just using the best odds from the Action Sports Network website. Oh, man, the Byron bet at plus 800 is tempting. I am going to take Chase Elliott, though, at because he's plus 1,600. So I'm definitely going to take him at plus 1,600. Yeah, that's a that's a pretty good bet. Elliott, obviously an HMS car. You really can't go wrong. If you can't go wrong right now with betting the Joe Gibbs cars and the Hendrick cars. You really can't. You really can't. I mean, you look at those guys, the wins that they've popped off, their season overall has just been insane. You know what I mean? Like, it's just been ridiculous. So, looking at, dang it, stupid. Looking at when you pick a driver and you see a plus 1,600 for Chase Elliott at Darlington, I'm gonna take that. I'll take that. So yeah, we'll take Chase Elliott plus 1,600. I don't see another. That Byron bet is tempting. Oh, that was the other one I said. Buescher. I'm gonna take Chris Buescher at, because he's plus 2,200, and we'll go 1 unit on him as well. All right. Top 3 bets. There's really no top 3 bets that I'm really liking. Like I said, when you start getting into top 3s, top 5s, top 10s, you want to be looking at longer odds. I do think, Chase Elliott, I got him as a potential win. Picking him for a top 3, that would not be a bad idea when you look at, where he is going to run for bets, right? If I think he's going to win, obviously he's going to be up in the top 3. But once again, the odds, there's a greater possibility that they could finish second or third over winning, right? When you look at a Chase Elliott, the drop off in the payout is huge. Chase Elliott to win is plus 1,600. Chase Elliott to finish on the podium is plus 425. Not that great. Chris Buescher to win plus 2,200. Chris Buescher podium plus 600. So that's where it gets tough. To be honest, I'm going to actually stay away from those top 3 bets. The top fives, I would much rather take those. But even then, like I said, you're going to be looking really, really far down. I do like Josh Berry for a top five. Like I said, I do like that. Will that happen? I have no idea, but I do like that. That is someone I will like to take a flyer on for top five at plus 1,300. So we'll take that. We'll go 1 unit on that as well. I don't have anybody else that I want to take for the top fives. Nobody. There's no other odds that are looking good to me. Top tens, definitely not. All right, so let's look at some matchups here. So matchups, we got Logano versus Blaney. Blaney is the favorite in that matchup at minus 110. Or excuse me, I take that back. Logano is the favorite at minus 118 over Blaney's 110. Chastain and Christopher Bell. So Chastain is the favorite over Bell at minus 121 over 108. That's interesting because you look at, Chastain's been running good, but Bell's had speed. I understand he has not had the finishes, but he's had speed this season. And I almost think, that obviously his pit crew is not Danny Hamlin's. But yeah, that's a tough one. We'll come back to that. Now here's a good one. I'm going to pick on this one just because it's going to be fun. Denny Hamlin versus Kyle Larson. Hamlin is minus 103 at with Larson at minus 129. So Larson is the favorite to beat Hamlin. I remember a couple years ago, Larson dominated a race at Darlington, and then Hamlin got the win. I've seen Hamlin win at this track so many times. I actually like that. And right now I can, they just changed the odds. I could get Hamlin at plus 100, which is even money. Larson minus 129, which basically means that Larson is a 56% probability over Hamlin's 44%. That to me definitely worth a gamble. So we'll take Hamlin over Larson at plus 100, and we'll go 1 unit on that. There's got to be another one in here. God, the Chastain and Bell one, man, I can't get off that. I don't know why. I just cannot get off that. Yeah, see, if you look at those odds, the implied probability on that is once again, it's basically what Larson and Hamlin is. It's 54% in the 55% in favor of Chastain. But dude, I'm telling you, I don't know. There's something about Bell. I'm going to take Bell over Chastain this week as well. That's going to be a minus 108, and we'll go 1 unit on that. So essentially, week 1 of our handicappers corner here, we're going to go with outright winners. We've got Christopher Bell at plus 1,200, Chase Elliott plus 1,600, Chris Buescher plus 2,200. For a top 5 payout, we are looking at Josh Berry at plus 1,300. Then on our matchups, we got Denny Hamlin over Kyle Larson. That's at even money, which is just plus 100. Bet 100, make 100. In our case, bet 50, make 50. And then we've got Christopher Bell over Ross Chastain at minus 108, which is we're betting 1 unit on that as well. I do have an odds calculator that I can get online. There's a bunch of them online that I'll use to calculate, what the payout is and all that stuff like that. So that is our handicappers corner. Always fun to just talk odds and stuff like that. I do love the betting and the stuff like that. I really wish they had legalized it here in California. It pisses me off that they didn't. anyways, that's going to do it all for today. I need to wrap this up, get to work. I got auto glass to do, online something, a bunch of work to do as always. So get to work. And yeah, big shout out to my man Keith. Hope he's having a good day, the celebration of life for his grandma. But you guys, thank you very much as always for joining us. I do appreciate it. Those of you who download, share, follow, subscribe. I really appreciate it. And big shout out to those of you who have left a rating and review on Spotify and Apple. That means a ton to us. And the fact that, we've got people listening every week, or the weeks that we put this out, try to get back onto every week, means a lot. Now, I know I talked before about the stuff with the website and everything like that. Obviously, all the crap that's happened these last few weeks, I have not been working on that. But now that things are kind of hopefully getting back to normal, I will get back on that. So keep an eye out for that, because that is coming here hopefully soon. I got a lot of cool stuff that I'm planning with that, and hopefully I can get it done and up. But that'll do it. Thank you very much as always. Enjoy a full slate of racing this weekend. And until next time, as always, take care.